All right, I'll call this meeting the order of the Public Safety Committee. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Wisconsin Statute Section 19.83 and 19.84 in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for discussion and action. Roll call. All members are present. Public comment. Is there any public comment tonight? Nobody online? Nobody on? Okay. Then we'll move to item 4, approval of the minutes of March 1st, 2021. All right, we have a motion to approve the minutes of March 20, 2021. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5, reports, Police Department.
Good evening. We have just extended an offer of employment to Daniel Pabish for the position of police officer. He will start April 19th. He's only been in Wisconsin for a short period of time, came to us from California actually. Does have the academy, so he'll be ready to enter the field training program, and we'll hopefully get him on solo patrol later this summer or early fall. The IT position, where we were thrilled to take 60 police officer applicants, we are over 300 for the IT position. We have also started to look at the managed services that was recommended. That is looking like a very good option, so we will keep you posted on that as well. As far as the patrol, traffic enforcement has gone up, and the canine, their third shift canine, has been very, very active with arrests on pretty much a weekly basis with that. So he's been very, very busy with the new canine unit. And those are pretty much the highlights.
All right. Fire Department.
We took delivery of our new ambulance this week. It will be out in the parking lot here. It probably might be there already. For you guys to take a look at. If you'd wish to, we can go through some features of it. If you have any questions, we'd be there to answer those too. I'm sure everybody had seen the large brush fire in Menominee Falls on Friday. We did actively work with that incident with them and learn some lessons from it too. And we'll be discussing those more with Menominee Falls. And as a direct result of that, and in addition to the large brush fire that we had last year, we did enact a burning ban here. It was effective Saturday morning. We did put it out to the media and our social media, and contacted each person that was holding an active burn permit. Since then, we have had a few people who were still burning. We've talked to them, and most of them have been pretty okay just putting it out for us. Besides those developments, things are pretty much progressing as they have throughout the course of this year.
All right, any questions for police or fire? Anybody? I did have one question on the compliance trend for the calls, that it dropped a little bit in February. Was there a reason for that? It went from 92 to 89%. It wasn't like a significant drop, but the last few months have been 92, 93%.
Are you referring to the NFPA?
NFPA, right?
Yeah, we have had a significant amount of double, triple, and quadruple calls all at the same time during that period, and it continues to this period. When that happens, the third and fourth unit out the door, or the mutual aid unit that is responding, typically takes a little longer. And that has impacted our numbers for that month.
So just stacked up calls, multiple calls. Okay. With that, we'll move to policy updates, Police Department.
Again, we have a number of updates here. Most of these are actually new policies that we did not have in place prior to this. The first several are basically guidance to officers on how to respond to certain types of investigations, and then a couple policies on dealing with segments of the population that may have limited English proficiency, or dealing with communicating with persons of disabilities, setting up a coordinator to guide officers on the services that are available to them when dealing with those populations.
Did anybody got questions for, on the policies? Questions? All right, then we'll move to Fire Department policies.
The fire department policies are, the first few are pretty much the statutes and laws that govern the fire department from the state of Wisconsin. The last three are kind of just our organizational structure, how it's laid out, what the chain of command may be, and the use of temporary general orders for situations that may just be for a short period of time. These are pretty much just the ground basis of all of our policies. The rest that will be coming out will be actual more meat and potatoes of how we're actually operating.
Any questions about Fire Department policies? No? Great, thank you. Move on to new business. Police Department commendation, Oliver Radke.
I did want to read a commendation that was presented to Officer Oliver Radke since the last meeting. On February 9th, 2021, at approximately 6:43 a.m., Germantown Communications received multiple 911 calls reporting a rollover car crash on I-41 southbound. A northbound vehicle on I-41 operated by a 50-year-old Kewaskum female crossed the center median cables and struck a southbound vehicle driven by a 50-year-old Milwaukee man. The northbound vehicle then spun and was struck by another southbound vehicle driven by a 29-year-old female with a 3.5-month-old female passenger from West Bend. The northbound vehicle then rolled into the west ditch line of I-41 southbound. A fourth vehicle driven by a 49-year-old male crashed into the median cables while avoiding the initial crashes. The crash scene had 4 vehicles involved, with one of the vehicles in the right lane of traffic. There was debris in all lanes of traffic and an overturned car on the right shoulder. Officer Radke was the first officer on scene. He immediately assessed the scene and found that the victim in an overturned car was the priority patient. He was able to crawl through a small opening to assess the patient. He immediately noted that the patient did not have a seatbelt on and was lying on the roof of the car. He noted that the patient was unconscious, had agonal breathing, and there was gasoline dripping on her. Due to these circumstances, Officer Radke decided that he needed to remove the patient from the car, as there was a high potential for a fire to ignite. Officer Radke was able to drag her out of the car and noted she was still breathing. Germantown Rescue arrived and tended to the patient. Officer Radke acted swiftly and professionally and used great assessment skills. He displayed courage and compassion during this stressful event. Officer Radke's actions are indicative of the level of character and training which this officer possesses and of the caliber of personnel employed by the Germantown Police Department. Our sincere congratulations to Officer Radke for a job well done.
It was amazing. Congratulate Officer Radke for us. That was.
I will pass that on. Thank you.
Great. With that, we'll move to item B, squad changeover.
We did receive both squads. We had requested permission to purchase those earlier in the year. We now are requesting $35,967.93 from that same account to complete the changeover of both squads.
All right, we have a motion to approve the squad changeover. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Guess I should ask for questions. Guess there was none. Okay. Item C, severe weather sirens.
We brought this up basically for information more than anything else. We're not really looking for any action on this right now. It did come to our attention this year that the sirens are in need of repair. They're 25 years old, and they are recommending that they be replaced. You can see the total cost of this, almost $144,000, with some options to do this over the course of several years. We had talked with Federal Signal on this project, and they have given us some options on just regarding the total replacement all at once, or doing it in stages over the course of 3 years. But just making everybody aware that that is something that is going to need to be addressed in the very near future.
So on the second page, you said something about that, the cost to even straighten the poles where it can't be covered this year?
Correct. These are additional costs that we did not anticipate. So some of even those very minimal costs are not something that we have budgeted right now.
Trustee Wayne?
So I looked at this a little bit. And what I'm discovering all over the country and even very popular in Wisconsin, there's no law that we need these sirens. These sirens are outdated. These sirens are made for only indoor, are made for people outside. They're not even approved for someone inside hearing them. They're way back from Cold War sirens, and then communities kept using them for weather emergencies. They had their place when I was a kid. We didn't all have cell phones on us. I believe it was last week, Sturgeon Bay got rid of theirs. They were under the same predicament. There were hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for maintenance. Anago got rid of theirs recently, and there's many other communities. I don't have my list with me, but this is one of the things that, this is where we save taxpayers' money. It's made to prevent deaths in a tornado. This is where we look at risk versus cost. How much money are we going to continue to spend when the death toll in Washington County from tornadoes is practically zero? That's not to say that a tornado won't come and cause severe damage, but we have drug deaths every year in this community. The fire department can tell you about them, that they're mounting. If we're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, it would be better served to protect people if we had more money into some kind of drug program. I'm not suggesting that's what we do with the money. I'm just relating to you how governments continue to waste money on low risk items such as this. We should do away with them. We should spend a small amount of money on a public awareness, showing people the apps they can actually put on their phone, and it costs the village nothing. If we wanted to go further, there is companies out there that have apps that are especially tied to the village where the police and fire department can issue warnings. So instead of, and it's better than an alarm because that's only for severe weather. We can tell them of other things. We can tell them of fires. We could, tell them that there's a burn ban and things like this. Other dangers within the community, terrorism, other type stuff, a shooter. So there's so many other options we can do here that I don't even think we should even be considering replacing these alarms.
Chief, do you have anything about that?
I frankly think that certainly is an option that has to be explored. It's something that we had considered. We just wanted to make everyone know that if that is the direction we're looking, now is the time. There are a number of apps available that will do the same thing. I'm sure some people do appreciate them. The only people we hear from are people that don't like the tests, though. We get a lot of calls on that they are a nuisance, basically, things of that nature. So certainly an option that needs to be pursued. Yeah, that it's,
Yeah, noon on Saturday, I get a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but I get complaints about that as well.
right.
But the apps that are out there, there's already apps out there for weather warnings that would cost the village nothing. It's just a matter of somebody downloading it on their phone if they thought it was important. But the apps that you can, as a village, we can actually subscribe to certain services and it will provide more information. And in fact, notify people that may be in their home and don't even hear the alarm of other dangers besides weather service. And it would be a huge cost savings. And there is companies we can look at. There's various ones. Some of them seem very expensive to keep the service contract going. But you don't have the initial price of, hundreds of thousands for replacing the alarms. And I've talked to people in the community and about this item, and they generally agree this is an outdated, antiquated system when we all have smartphones on us. And, I think all the dogs in Germantown would also appreciate it.
I would say most people, even if there's a weather threat, they know, they know before the sirens go off. That, so I agree that, we need to look at other options for this and alternatives before we would even consider something like this, to be replaced.
And in addition to the cost of replacing, there's yearly maintenance that is not inexpensive.
Okay, any other questions or comments? What's the next step with this, chief? I mean, if we can look at alternatives, but this would be a budgeting process anyway, right?
Correct.
It would have to be budgeted in the next several
Correct.
years.
I think in the meantime, I can look at what services might be available out there. I don't know, Michelle, if what we're looking at now has anything to do with offering anything like that. Yeah. So that might be the next step, is just pricing some of those out and seeing what that would look like in the budget.
Yeah, I think that's a good step.
Well, all the way from actually having the alarms to having a service that the village uses and pays for through smartphones, and having just an awareness program, I would say the first year to, indicate that there's free services out
Sure.
there. The National Weather Service, and you can put the app on your phone and they'll do it without cost to the village and notify you when there's a tornado or severe weather warning in your area. So I lean towards that plan,
Okay.
considering how much money we're going to be spending on emergency police service with the new police building coming along and everything else.
Right.
And the vast majority of people with all the different apps they have on their phone,
Yeah. And most probably already have something in place, but yeah.
Great. So we'll look at some alternatives for that and then you can report back to us.
Okay, we'll do that.
Item D, Fire Department Battalion Chief Holiday Pay.
During the course of our last union negotiations and by some of the battalion chiefs on the department, it was brought to my attention that they do not receive any extra compensation for having to work holidays like the rest of the department employees do, or as of some of the other village employees as in general. So currently the village schedules 11 holidays per year, which is a total of 88 hours for a regular employee. The line firefighters do receive holiday pay, though they don't get the holidays off. They just get the day's worth of pay extra for it. So what I'm requesting is that that the battalion chiefs receive 3 paid days off to use at their will in exchange for those working of those days that they currently work.
So 3 days comp time in lieu of holidays.
Right.
Any? Comments? Yeah, trustee.
Yeah, not so much at their will as much, they still need approval.
Well, right,
Yeah.
right,
They would just be added an additional 3 days PTO.
correct.
Any other questions? Yeah, if not, I would need a motion.
Motion to approve new business items D.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any other questions on item D for battalion chief paid, I'm sorry, PTO? Yes, trustee Myers. Like dollar amount?
You're looking for the dollar amount from me? Is that what you're asking? I don't know off the top of my head what that would be. I'd have to do some math on that. 3. Yes,
else wants it, I just think it should be put in there, that's all.
Well, if you want that, we can follow up. This has got to go to the board for approval, doesn't it?
it does.
Yeah, so we can
but
follow
I-
up at the board.
I don't
if you
know,
want.
you know,
I mean, it's 3 days of their base pay.
it's. But if they're gone, you're substituting someone in their place. So wouldn't it be
There is,
person's pay? I mean, they're gonna be paid the same regardless. The cost per year would be the same. They would just be taking off of work and getting paid for it instead of working and getting paid for it.
that is correct.
So why would the cost wouldn't be any more unless you were replacing them that day?
That is correct.
And that would be less somebody,
That would be a stipend dollar amount.
Right.
It wouldn't be an overtime dollar amount. The stipend would be for someone to replace them, is it $110? $125.
yeah, so, I mean, we're not talking about a large sum of money here. I think,
So the way I read this is that each battalion chief works approximately 3 holidays a year, right? And
Correct.
you're just trying to give that time back to them because they don't get paid holiday pay.
That's correct.
Seems reasonable to me.
yeah, and the cost is minimal because they're, you know, I think we're looking at first with the question, you're looking at it wrong. You probably could figure it out right now
I
that
am working on it.
knowing that what we just went through, it's,
I think it's about $2,600.
yeah, so.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, ordinance amending section 14-25, subparagraph 6 of the Germantown Municipal Code relating to the sale of intoxicating liquor for off-premises consumption.
Yeah,
Is that this?
There,
It is.
do I got one?
So this is also up on the village board agenda tonight as well. But this is the recent law passing, or the law that passed the state where places could sell alcoholic beverages as a kit and have it sealed and sell it with the food. So I think we're just adjusting our code to reflect what the state code is. Is that correct? Is that a good synopsis on this?
That is correct.
motion to approve new business item E. Does this need approval?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're going to push it towards the village board, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, with that, any other questions on this ordinance? Any other comments? If not, we'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next meeting, we do have a topic that we should address, earlier than our next meeting. So we were asked to do a special meeting just prior to the village board meeting on April 19th, if that's okay. It'll be about 5-minute to 10-minute meeting.
Have it just before.
Is there anything else scheduled that night? General government? I have that at 5:30,
Which day are we talking?
The 19th.
April 19th.
Oh.
It's one topic that we have to address.
So like 6:45.
Right, I would say right after GGF, we could fit it in, if that's okay. All right, so we'll do a special meeting on April 19th, and then our regular meeting would be May 3rd, although that could subject to change depending
So-
upon availability of new members.
So am I included in the Public Safety Committee since no one's appointed yet?
I think that's correct.
Okay.
Are you at the board meeting that night?
No, I was told no.
So that's when the transition takes over?
I think so.
So we would obviously have a quorum without you, as long as the other two would make it, and you can't,
Yeah.
but
Is
That
that
would be great.
what we're saying accurate?
that was my understanding from what our attorney said. Midnight that night?
What is the topic? Or you can't say?
Oh, the topic is sticks. It's the same thing that's similar to the thing that's on tonight on the village board. They're doing an honor flight thing, but they need certain approvals.
Oh, yeah.
They're doing an honor flight fundraiser.
So it's nothing that's
It's nothing-
controversial or
nothing
anything.
major.
So, it's not a big deal then. Okay.
So, well,
You have a quorum?
I was just going to add that I think that for your discussion, it is consistent with what my understanding of the village attorney told the board at the last meeting, that the transition would take place at the village board meeting on the 19th.
okay, great.